myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good afternoon, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and welcome to Ross Gregory. How are you, Ross?
Good, thanks, Steve. How's everyone?
All good, and welcome to everybody in the chat. I got quite a few in for this time in the afternoon, so good to see you. Don't forget, this is your opportunity to put some questions across to me and Ross about Newcastle United and what is going on at the club and what's happened in the last 7 days. And what has happened in the last 7 days, Ross, is Newcastle United lost a pretty evenly contested match against Arsenal, 2-0. I think a lot of us were scratching our heads coming out of the ground wondering how on earth we'd lost the game.
It was a tough game, Steve, wasn't it? It was a real end-to-end, bit of a thriller, exciting kind of clash between two really good teams, and it just shows at the top end certainly, but also in a lot of Premier League games, it's fine margins between a win and a defeat. Newcastle came out on the wrong side of those fine margins on Sunday. On another day, they could have quite easily won it 2-0. I thought, if I'm being honest, I thought Arsenal were the better side. I thought Arsenal were one of the best, put in one of the best performances at St James's Park that we've seen this season. So, but that didn't mean Newcastle didn't play poorly. Newcastle played really well in certain parts. Just didn't have that cutting edge that they've had in recent games in front of goal. Slightly sloppy on a couple of defensive players, I thought, as well, which Arsenal's quality took advantage of. So it was a real tight game. Like I say, I thought it could have gone either way, but sometimes you just you get them breaks, sometimes you don't, and you've got to kind of move on and roll on to the next one.
John Askew goes, afternoon all. The dark arts is a euphemism for time wasting and cheating. We're not the only guilty party and it's wrong. Surely a solution would be to allow the game to continue when the trainer comes on. It's incredible that the authorities, by their non-action, implicitly condone the dark arts, and the integrity of the game is obviously undermined. You might have a different opinion, of course. In my opinion, he also goes on to say that it's dangerous to suggest 6 points almost guarantees top four. Liverpool's last game is at Southampton. They could get a cricket score, or am I just being a typical old school mag? Okay, John, we'll tackle your first bit first. The dark arts, Ross. I think I've gone on record already as saying that congratulations to Arteta, because he came with a game plan. His team came with a game plan, and he did what we did to them at the Emirates. Time wasting, game management, call it what you want, dark arts, as John's mentioned. The simple thing is that if you have a referee that clamps down on that straight away, it stops straight away. But Chris Kavanagh didn't do that at the weekend, and ultimately Arsenal got away with murder.
I think it's difficult. I think I'm not defending the referee as such, because I don't think he was particularly great, but I don't think he was poor either. I don't think it was a bad performance. The referees are under the instructions to try and let things flow, try and let things go as much as possible. There was a few robust challenges and everything else like that. You've got to be very careful as a referee. When somebody goes down injured, you can't just automatically assume that they're feigning an injury, or that they're not as bad injured as what they may seem. I thought it was just a really strong competitive game, and you're going to get some of those sometimes. I'm not going to bleat on about Arsenal the way they went on, because they were just professional and ruthless, and like you say, kind of almost give Newcastle a bit of the taste of medicine. As people who follow Newcastle, we've seen what Newcastle have done over this season, and they've certainly added that element to the game. There's certainly no pushover, no rollover. Arsenal last season were a pushover. they did roll over against Newcastle at St James's, and they obviously came with a point to prove. They wanted to show that they were strong mentally and physically, that they'd learned the lesson, that they weren't going to be intimidated or pushed out of the game, or bow to the pressure. And fair play to them for standing up and doing that. We all want to see a game of football, I think, where it's free flowing and it's fast paced and it's the ball's in play 78% of the time or whatever. But this is Premier League football. It's a business. There's a lot on the line for players reputationally, for managers as well, and it's a winner takes all type of industry. So you're going to get different games like that. I thought Arsenal were really, really good. I thought they handled the occasion well. I thought they handled the game well. Maybe the referee could have been a bit stronger on certain occasions. I thought there should have been maybe another couple of minutes of injury time added on at the end. Not that it would, or stoppage time. Not that it would have made much difference anyhow. But look, I don't think as a Newcastle fan, having seen the way that the team has seen out games previously in the past, that you could complain or criticise the way that Arsenal did it. And I don't think the referee was particularly to blame. I just thought it was just one of those old-fashioned physical Premier League games.
It was, and you can't win them all. That's the bottom line. You can't win them all, and Arsenal deserved the victory, and I think Newcastle fans accepted that, and weren't too downbeat and disappointed, and we move on to the next one. The other point as well, which John was making, was, in my opinion, it's dangerous to suggest 6 points almost guarantees top four. Liverpool's last game is at Southampton. They could get a cricket score. Am I just being a typical old school mag? John, I would say you are. And I'll tell you why. Because try and predict scores at your peril. Look at yesterday's results. Brighton 1, Everton 5. Notts Forest 3, Southampton, Notts Forest 4, Southampton 3, and the list goes on over the season. It's been some monumental results, and there'll be more. Fulham whacking Leicester 5-3. I mean, you couldn't have got that on a betting slip yesterday. It's crazy. So it's difficult when you look at fixtures. Ross, we're looking at Leeds. You think Newcastle against Leeds. We won there last season. We'll go down there. We should be all right, but it just doesn't work out like that. We're looking at the Brighton game in 2 weeks, thinking that's going to be a difficult game. Probably still will be, but look what happened to Brighton yesterday at home. You can't predict what's going to happen, can you?
You can't. It is silly. It is the silly season for results. It is this point in the season where strange results happen, games that you wouldn't predict the outcome of. You see these almost freak scorelines, freak results, because either there's a lot of injuries and tiredness and jaded legs. Some teams are, for want of a better phrase, on the beach, but equally some who don't have much to play with a kind of bit of a carefree kind of abandon. That they wouldn't normally do if they were in a relegation fight or a title fight or chasing Europe. So. You do get these really, really strange kind of results. The stresses and the pressures take the toll on players, on management, on fans. There's a lot of tension in and around a lot of games. That Everton result, just unbelievable. That was just incredible. You would never have said Everton would be 3-0 up at half time. 4-0, eventually winning 5-1 at Brighton, who've been excellent. So you can't. It's very, very difficult to predict the games at this time of the year. Go back to John's original point. I've said all along that 71 points will be enough. So that's 2 more wins. I think that will be enough. I think Liverpool will get to 71 points. I think Liverpool will win all their games, and I've said this now for probably about 2 or 3 weeks. That I thought Liverpool would win every game between now and the end of the season and get to 71 points. So Newcastle needed to be on 71 at least. Obviously 72 will secure it. But I do think 71 will be enough with the goal difference that Newcastle have. You know, it's +7 on Liverpool. So +7. If Newcastle win a couple more games, it'll go up to approximately +10. If Liverpool win their 3 games and overturn a 10 goal difference, then fair play to them. But I don't see it happening. So I think 71 points, 2 more wins for Newcastle will be enough. Hopefully, they can get 3 of those nice and sharp on Saturday and leave themselves 3 more games to finish the job off.
Yeah, somebody said in the chat, it just shows how far we've come when we're disappointed. We're lost against the team in 2nd place and we're in 3rd place. Of course it does, and I mean it's been a fantastic, fantastic run. Dan says Villa could easily take points off Liverpool as well. There's still some big fixtures, coming up. That's what we've got to remember. And anything can happen, anything at all. Arsenal's back 4 was all over the place. Ramsdale kept them in it at times. Arsenal looked strong in midfield and going forwards, but weak at the back. 2 more wins, lads. 2 more wins, says Ian. Bruno looked a bit more lethargic again at the weekend, and obviously Longstaff's injury. Tom wanted to know if there's any updates on the ankle injury. I've heard nothing. I doubt there's anything out there. I've not seen anything today, but Bruno did look as if he was carrying that ankle. It seems to be getting worse week in, week out, and then Joe Linton going off as well. We're led to believe he's been wrapped in cotton wool this week. It could be a bit of kidology from Eddie Howe. We don't know how serious any of these injuries are. But Longstaff's was bad enough to keep him out at the weekend. Going for another scan, the club said. Bruno, certainly not at the races at the weekend. Looked a bit leggy. And Joe Linton potentially injured. I mean, we could have a bit of a midfield crisis going into the Leeds game.
We could. And I think this has been everybody's worry and concern ever since January, is that the midfield is the area that is the weakest in terms of competition, in terms of numbers. I think when everybody's fit and flying, and you've got Bruno, Sean Longstaff, and probably either Joe Linton or Joe Willock on that other side, and the other one in a bit more forward position. That's a really strong midfield, but there's no out and out replacement for Bruno. That's just the fact, So I saw a message in the chat there. I think it was John Askew again saying, should Eddie consider resting Bruno? I don't think there's anybody who could come in and replace him. I don't think there's anybody like for like at the minute who could come in and replace Bruno. The one that you could look at doing would be Sean Longstaff. He could maybe go into and drop into that deeper role, and then you would have, you'd have the other options in and around him. But I don't think there's anybody in there who can replace Bruno at the minute. And that, that's where Newcastle left themselves a little bit short from January. Understand why they got rid of John Joe Shelby, and you could argue that even if Bruno was only half fit, he's still better than John Joe Shelby. I think a quarter fit Bruno is still better than John. In fact, a Bruno with one leg is better than John Joe Shelby. But they did leave themselves short. They did leave themselves a little bit light. Tired bodies at this end of the season, knocks and niggles that don't help. Newcastle's midfield was probably the weakest part of the game, I thought, on Sunday. Albeit Arsenal's midfield was probably their strongest suit as well. I thought Jorginho was excellent, Martin Odegaard was excellent, Xhaka was his typical kind of disruptive self. Thought they were really, really good in there. Newcastle struggled to impose themselves on that part of the game. But having said all this about the midfield and about the tired legs, and Bruno was definitely below par, Newcastle still could have won that game. Still could have beaten the team challenging for the title. They could have still beaten that game even with 2 or 3 players below par, which shows how well they are playing at the minute. But also, like we said at the top of the show, just the fine margins it is in certain games between winning and losing.
Yeah, I would. I'm not disappointed. I came out the ground and I genuinely wasn't as disappointed as I would have been. Had Newcastle not tried, put the best effort in, I thought they did well. John says, lads, with the loss of Longstaff, Bruno's in different form and the big Sam factor, do you think 3 points on Saturday is unlikely? Would 1 point be okay?
John, you're in a bit of a negative mood today, mate, aren't you?
He is, isn't he?
1 point against Leeds. No, I think I understand where you're coming from. I think Newcastle have got more than enough to beat Leeds on any given day. I understand the Big Sam thing is going to get people, twitchy. It would be typical that the Champions League bid is derailed by somebody as unpopular on Tyneside as what Allardyce is. So there is always that thing, but I think there's still enough in that team to go and take on Leeds and get 3 points. I'd be disappointed with 1 point. I think it's a game where you've got to go and put 3 points on the board. I watched Leeds against Man City, and they defended well, but they just put 11 men behind the ball and made themselves very difficult to break down. I think it'll be a very different game at Elland Road. They'll have to come out and be a bit more positive and proactive. They've now dropped into the bottom 3 after Everton and Forest's wins. So they're going to have to come out and have a real go at it, which should leave more space for Newcastle on the break and on the counter to have a go at it. But yeah, I think it's got to be going for 3 points in that game, and I'd be disappointed with just the 1.
Yeah, with 4 games to go, the players need to push on through injuries. We're so close now, it would be a shame to finish 5th, says Darren. Ian says, if Notts Forest get relegated, we get Wood back. It's a permanent transfer. I'm pretty sure we don't get Wood back. That deal's gone through. So he's not on loan. He is staying at Notts Forest. The deal has been done. £15 million. We're winning all the last games. I bet you were buying, says Andrew. I'm not a betting man. But I don't think we're gonna go on another bad run. Darren says, I thought the Wood deal was triggered as it was by the number of games for Notts Forest to sign him. Nah, I don't think that's the case either. I think the deal was done. We'll have to double check. Ross, to be where we are now and to give Arsenal the game despite 1 or 2 not up to their own high standards gives one confidence. Come for what next season? A couple of other questions as well that were in there. Can we now remain unbeaten, Ross, says Roger? We need 7+ points. Again, we need 7+ points depending on other results. Other results may go against those teams chasing us in and around us next week against Leeds. We could win comprehensively at Leeds. Liverpool could lose or draw. Manchester United could lose or draw. And suddenly, we just need another 3 points and job's done. So it's all ifs and buts of pots and pans. But do you think we'll go unbeaten?
No, I don't. I don't think we'll go unbeaten. I think just simply because of the nature of the league at this point in the season, I think there's a lot of, like we said before, a lot of unpredictability, a lot of tired limbs, a lot of tired bodies, physically and mentally. So I think it's a big ask to go unbeaten in them last 4 games. But I still think Newcastle will have enough in the locker to get over the line. The area that is concerning me, and I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday, is defensively. So Newcastle now are down to keeping 1 clean sheet in the last 16 games. 1 clean sheet in the last 16 games for what was and probably still is the defensively the best record in the Premier League. Now that means Newcastle have to score twice in a game to win it. Okay, now if I think if we can ensure that there's a bit of tightening up at the back there, if we can get back to that mean machine, and that's not just the back 4, it's the protection that they get in front of them. But a couple of clean sheets would go a long way now to securing Champions League football for the rest of the season. Don't think they can always be reliant on scoring 3s and 4s and 5s in games to win them. A clean sheet on Sunday would have been an extra point. I don't think the defense has been anywhere near the best, and that's the area of concern that I've got. As much as the midfield's misfiring, and we missed a couple of chances on Sunday. It's just that lack of defensive resolve, that lack of clean sheets that's troubling me slightly at the minute. So hopefully that'll change around, and the team will get back to being as mean as what they were early on in the season.
Yeah, been a bit weird seeing goals go in, but it was going to happen at some point. John says, I'm just an old misery at heart, Ross. Just about 50 years supporting this club now. Happily living the dream now. So there you go. He's not that bad. He's not a misery. Sparky's had to leave us. He's off on the school run. Yeah, we just have to pick the times that that me and Ross can both do. It won't always be at 2:45. It's just we've both got lives away from the podcast. So apologies for those who find it slightly inconvenient watching it at this time. John had one more point, which was I'm hoping for a return of the time we had derbies next year. I mean, you're not going to get both, John. It could be one or the other or neither. But what an amazing day in the championship yesterday as well, with Millwall going 3-1 up at Blackburn, only to find, only to lose by 4-3. Brayton Diaz getting the winner, and Sunderland going 1-0 up in the end of the first half, and then making a substitution and coming on and playing like Brazil in the second half in front of 6,000 travelling fans to clinch a place in the playoffs. I mean, fascinating game, fascinating. Sunderland deserved it. They now play Luton, of course. Middlesbrough play Coventry, who they drew with yesterday. I believe that Sunderland and Luton drew both their games against each other this season. Not very high scoring games either. So it's all up for grabs, isn't it? We may well have a derby back next season, Ross.
We may well do. I think. I know this is a Newcastle podcast, but I thought Sunderland, the job that Tony Mowbray has done at Sunderland is nothing short of remarkable.
I tweeted that yesterday. Yeah.
The average age that they've got in that side is really, really young. It's there was only 2 players or 3 players over 22, 23 in the team yesterday. And adding to the fact that they've been without a striker most of the season, and without a proper centre half for the last probably 2 months as well. The job that he's done there is absolutely remarkable. And going into the playoffs, they'll be full of confidence, but they'll also be relaxed. They'll also, they've got nothing to lose. They weren't expected to be in there. They're playing with a bit of freedom and a bit of abandon. And it's, I've watched some of the games this season, and the football that they play is very, very good. Very attractive on the eye. Ahmed Diallo and Patrick Roberts and Jack Clark and a couple of others in there, your Dan Neils and whatever. There's some really good young talented players. So it's probably, in terms of promotion, it's probably a year at least, maybe 2 years too early for them. But it'll be, you wouldn't bet against them it's a 2-legged semi-final and a one-off game at Wembley. You wouldn't bet against them. The interesting bit is if they do get to the playoff final and Borough get to the playoff final, then it's down at Wembley on May the 29th, I think it is, the same
27th.
Weekend. 27th, same weekend that Newcastle are playing Chelsea.
Murders on. There'll be murders on.
Yeah, so it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens around that. But there's a long way to go for that. Sunderland obviously need to win, Borough need to win. There's a long way to go, but you wouldn't be surprised if there's 1 or 2 little changes of plans and stuff like that. But no, look, fantastic season for Sunderland, regardless of what your allegiances are. You can't deny that Tony Mowbray's done an incredible job there.
No, definitely not. Mind, I think some of the Sunderland fans must have been on the Tuborg or the Lorimer's Best Scotch or something when they were coming out of that turnstile saying they're going to rule the world when they came out. I mean, I know you won a game against Preston, lads, and you got the playoffs, but how going to rule the world? Dear me, how they picked the worst people coming out the ground. They really did. That was on ITV, so get a chance to watch ITV news, local news tonight. You'll see exactly who I'm talking about. Didn't cover themselves in any glory. That's for certain. John says, should Eddie consider resting Bruno in the light of recent mediocre performances, or is he too valuable to leave out, even if less than 100% fit? There's only 4 games left, so keep playing with him. Look, we've had no confirmation or denial that Bruno, is injured or carrying an injury. Eddie Howe has been very careful in the press conferences to say that there was an ankle injury. He turned his ankle. He recovered from that, and he's been okay. But watching him against Arsenal on Sunday, he wasn't himself. He definitely looked like he was carrying it. I'm no doctor. I just go off what I've seen from football over the years, and he just didn't look himself. Elliot Anderson is fit. He's raring to go. I put this to the fans forum. Is it time to give Elliot Anderson a chance? He may have no option if Joe Linton and Longstaff are both injured and Bruno's not exactly bursting on all cylinders, he might have to play Elliot Anderson. I mean, would you put him in ahead of Gordon, perhaps? I mean, is Anderson ready for that? Some people were saying he would flourish better at home rather than a tough away game, but I think he's ready, mate. I think he's ready.
I think it's a big gamble, Steve. I think it's a real gamble, and with 4 games to go to change either your formation or bring players in who haven't had many minutes. I don't think Bruno will not start against Leeds unless he's seriously unfit. He still played the full 90 on Sunday, even though he is carrying or looks to be labouring slightly. His performance wasn't anywhere near the levels that he set previously. But like I said earlier, I think even on one leg, he's better than a lot of alternatives. So I think he'll still play him, and hopefully Joe Linton's okay. Hopefully Joe Willock's okay. The taking Sean Longstaff out of that team, though, it disrupts more than just the kind of that right hand side. It disrupts the left hand side, because your best left hand side partnership is Joe Linton and Joe Willock. Joe Willock is kind of alternating between that kind of left midfield, left forward. Now, with Sean Longstaff being out, and one of them is moving on to the right hand side of the midfield 3, so that disrupts that partnership on that left hand side. It's a real problem, and just because there hasn't been any kind of like for like replacement, you almost changing 2 positions just for the sake of one injury, which isn't ideal. I think Elliot Anderson's got a fantastic future ahead of him, and I hope he really succeeds in a black and white shirt. But I don't think it's the right time for him. I think they'll try and patch up Bruno, try and patch up Joe Linton, try and get through to the end of the season with what they've got.
Yeah, Bruno's not given any mediocre performances. His performance may have dropped, but he still stands out. And Bruno set very high standards with his start. There will always be dips once in a while. Ian Toon Trader says that if Anderson has to come in, I don't think he'd let us down, but it's a hard game to come into for me. On the derbies, Eamon, was good to see you the other week, mate. He said, I hope Sunderland and Middlesbrough both get to the final, so we are guaranteed a North East derby game next season, lads. How are the lads? Absolutely give Elliot a start, says Derek. And if North East clubs get to the final same weekend as the Toon at Chelsea, says David, yeah, well, we're mentioning that before, and that's going to be a nightmare for the police. It really is. A nightmare for train companies. Nightmare for people trying to get booked in hotels. It's just a nightmare. Anderson will play his socks off if he gets a start, says Derek. Bruno was putting in some naughty tackles on Sunday, probably because he is so frustrated with himself. Yeah, that's what happens. There's no doubt about that. We are in danger of making panic moves because of the importance of the games. It would be unfair to drop Anderson into that. Why would we move away from what we've done all season? And Darren says, I was worried about playing Brighton coming up, but after yesterday's result, you would think we would grab 3 points against Brighton and Leicester and Leeds. Draw, 7 points needed before the final game. And Bruno is 100% the target in the Leeds game. Fat Sam plays ugly football, but he is not daft. And I'm sure Derek, he's put this in the chat a few times, and Derek Platten, I keep missing it, Derek, but I'll give it a go. Super Geordie Longstaff is terrific and ferocious, makes the opposition look pathetic and atrocious. If you sing this song with us, you really do support us. Super Geordie Longstaff is terrific and ferocious. Very good, Derek. And I attempted the tune, so when Julie watches this back, she'll be very pleased with that. But I do quite like it. Do you think anyone who's had 7-8 pints of lager is going to be able to sing that at Newcastle United or on an away game? Definitely not, mate. But it's a good song. I do like it. That has taken us nicely into the break for the ads. We'll be back after this. A big shout out to all our sponsors. Thanks to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickies.co.uk, or by calling 01768 210 102. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. If you enjoy the show, please hit the little thumb under the video and like the video. Click share to share to your other social media, or subscribe. It's free, and we do 7 shows a week. If you want to become a member, you can click join underneath this video. There are different packages to suit all different pockets. And if you want to become a cult member, then put your smartphone over the QR code. It'll take you straight there to the website, which is NUFCmatters.com. If you go in via the website, just click membership pack. What do you get for your money? You get a pen, you get a cup, you get a membership card and a scarf, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, we are available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this show. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is where you'll find the matchday bucket. You can make a virtual donation today. We've also got some events coming up over the next couple of months. An evening with Peter Beardsley at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets available from NewcastleLegends.com, or go to Voucher and get a 40% discount. Our end of season do is the 27th of May at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are a tenner from NUFCmatters.com. An evening with Gavin Peacock takes place on July the 10th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets from NUFCmatters.com for that event. And the following night, Gavin will be at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe. Go to their website for ticket information. We've got a vast range of t-shirts, merchandise and memorabilia available at our website. The Isaac t-shirt is doing well. Go to NUFCmatters.com to buy one today. Okay, Andrew says he thought it was Julie Andrews there. Thank you, Andrew. It's a compliment to my singing, which I don't often get. I can see it now. Liverpool getting into third. Klopp getting manager of the season. Stephen, man, no chance. No chance, son. BT says, what did Hearts and Newcastle get out of the Kowal loan deal? Where next for Kowal? Back to Hearts, if you believe reports and listening to the interim manager at Hearts. Seems keen on having him back.
I've not looked at the comments, to be honest, but look, obviously he hasn't got the minutes that he wanted it up at Hearts. He hasn't got he hasn't made the impact that he hoped for. But what he got out of it, he'll got experience. He's been bedded in. You're not going to have everything go your own way when you're a professional footballer. There's going to be some tough times, and hopefully it'll be a character test for him. But he'll have acclimatized. He'll got used to hopefully his surroundings. He's not a million miles away from England. Let's hope he's settled in and he comes back for pre-season for Newcastle and can make an impact there.
Ian says, I still think Ross needs to wear a fancy nana knitted stripy coloured jumper next week to match his effervescent personality, but I don't think he's got the minerals.
I don't even know what effervescent means, Steve.
Do you want us to email Ben Jacobs and put you in touch? You can have one of his jumpers. When it comes to Newcastle in the Premier League, they both want to appear independent, but this is an area of cloudiness which still needs resolving. It's clear we need a Declan Rice type figure in the midfield. Would you splash out for him, or would you go for a cheaper European option? Tom Dixon also says news is coming out that Declan Rice is available in the coming transfer window. Would you sign him, Ross?
If I had the money, if money was no object, then I'd sign him in a heartbeat. Absolute heartbeat. I think he's outstanding. I think he's exactly the type of player that Newcastle need. I think he would improve pretty much every team, and I mean every team. I'm talking even Man City. He would improve every team in the Premier League. I think he's an outstanding player. But if the money being quoted is 100 million, 120 million, then no, not for that type of money, because I don't think Newcastle are in that ballpark yet. But I think he's exceptional.
Derek says they can all join in with diddle diddle. He's still going on about that song. Any news or any truth that we're looking at or have made a move for Adam Wharton? Certainly one thing would have made a move for him at this moment in time, but Adam Wharton, is that a name that you've heard bandied around?
Yeah, it's a name that I've heard bandied around. I don't know how much there is in it, but he is one of those names that have been bandied around. Newcastle have sent scouts to Blackburn previously, but I mean, they send scouts to a lot of games, so that's not necessarily reading too much into it. But he's extremely highly rated at Blackburn. I think he's still only 17, 18, 19 years old, 18 years old maybe, and he's made a lot of appearances in their midfield. So he would fit that kind of profile of young emerging players that Newcastle want to add to their squad. So in that sense, then you can see where there might be interest. But in terms of how concrete it is, no idea.
The hills are alive with the sound of Geordies. Effervescent is you all over, Ross. Vivacious and enthusiastic, just like you. Have you got the dictionary in front of you, Ian?
He's going to have to explain what vivacious means now. He's going to be spending all his day just. He's like a walking thesaurus, is Ian, isn't he?
He is, definitely. Oh, dear me. Alan says, Ross, I know Leeds' game will be tough, but I think we're too good. We are brilliant. Their defence has more holes than a hedgehog pillow. Simple. Anderson must be given a chance. And he also says, so Ross, when we play Real Madrid next year, European Champions League final, who do you pick? Gordon or Anderson? Or do you wait for the next year's final? Anderson in. Simple.
Is he related to Elliot Anderson? Is this Elliot Anderson's dad under a different name? Look, nothing would please me more than seeing Elliot Anderson come through and becoming a real star for Newcastle. I think I don't think there's anything better than seeing young players come through your academy, players who've got that affinity with the club, who want to be there for the right reasons. Who've got an attachment to the area, all that sort of stuff. I don't think there's anything better. I loved the 90s, seeing, watching Robbie Elliott, Steve Howe, Lee Clark, those lads, Stevie Watson, Lee Makel, or Alan Thompson. It might be the Alan Thompson, making all their appearances in a black and white shirt. I thought it's fantastic seeing it. So I really hope Elliot Anderson comes through. I just think he's been handled brilliantly so far by Eddie Howe. He hasn't overexposed them in games, and he's dipped them in and out. Maybe this is the time to bring him in, and if the injuries are of a level where Newcastle's options are limited, then he certainly wouldn't let anybody down. I don't think. For me, I wouldn't want to see too many changes between now and the end of the season. I think it's what's got Newcastle to where they are is consistency of team selection, consistency of formation and tactics, and hopefully they can see the job out over the next 4 games.
Ian says, effervescent is you all over, Ross, which is what we had then. He says he Googled it. So there we go. And Ian says a fart is effervescent. Now we're starting to lower the tone. Derek says, super hack Ross Gregory is vivacious and informative. So proper little sing-song going on in the chat today. Tom Dixon says, which position do you think we need to strengthen in the window? He also asked, if you had only the option of buying one big player next summer, who would you buy? So we did this last night, and a lot of people said Osherman. A lot of people, one person said Harry Kane. There was a few shouts for Maddison. So it's the same old. But if you could only buy one big name player and you had to break the bank and break the pay structure, who would it be for?
I think for me, it would probably be, I think I would go for Declan Rice.
Rice.
I think Declan Rice, I can see why, you want to break the bank for a striker, somebody who's going to make that difference, who is going to be super clinical at the top end. That's why they get the big money. I think the midfield is the area that Newcastle really, really need to strengthen. That's not, being disparaging against Bruno, against Sean Longstaff, against Joe Linton. I just think that the numbers in there, they need bolstering. So if I had to bring in one player, it would be in that midfield. And I can't think of anybody probably available or anybody that I'd rather have in there than Declan Rice at the minute.
Yeah, Tom Dixon and David Cook both asking, what did you think of the Arsenal fan being in our end at the weekend? David Cook says, thoughts on the ticket system after trouble in the family and closure. I mean, this is something that's happened in the past in Newcastle. We saw it, probably the one that sticks out is Liverpool at home a few seasons back when Liverpool won 3-2. There was Liverpool fans all over the corporate section, places that hadn't sold out. Somebody clearly sold the guy a ticket. It's in the family enclosure. And those Arsenal fans were ejected by stewards. I mean, there's video footage of it happening. Had Newcastle been winning 2-0, I'm not sure the Newcastle fans would have turned as quickly as they did. But I wasn't there. I can't really comment on it. Neither were you. But it was handled well. The stewards got them out. But just in general, tickets falling into away team supporters' hands. It's commonplace. It happens, doesn't it? I don't see a way out of it.
I don't either, Steve. I think it's very difficult to stop them happening. It's happened for many a year, and it'll continue to do so. I suppose the one way that you could do is you're right, you're bringing in some sort of ID checks and that sort of stuff. But that we're a long kind of way off that, or making sure you identify whose seat that is. If it's a season ticket holders, whose seat that is that, and why have you sold it to an Arsenal fan. So it's happened for decades and decades, and it'll probably continue to happen until there's some sort of whether it's photo ID or some sort of different ID sanctions that are introduced.
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to change, and sometimes it's the only way that people can get a ticket for a game. You've just got to behave yourself. It's down to the person who gets that ticket to behave themselves when they get into there. BT asks, is it not too early to give Bruno a contract extension when his present contract doesn't expire until June 2028? You see a lot of this. I mean, there's a lot of talk at the moment about Bruno getting a new contract, an extended contract. But I guess it's a way of changing people's wage structure. It's these things happen, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think the contract, if he's getting a new contract, or the contract issue will be the expiry date. I think it'll be the terms within it, like you say, Steve. It'll be it'll be rewarding him for his improved, his form or his value to the club with a pay rise. It might not be, and they might just add an extra year or two extension onto it. So, look, I think if both parties are open to it, then why not renegotiate his contract and tie him in a little bit longer, and also give him the money that he clearly deserves.
Yeah, okay. Is there any truth in Newcastle meeting the family of Fenerbahce player Arda Güler in Dubai this weekend to discuss a possible move?
No idea. Not heard that one. Not read about it. Nothing that's been mentioned to me. So I'm completely in the dark on that one.
Does Ross think that Miggy should come back in on the right for Murphy?
I do. Yes, I think it's. I was in favour of Murphy coming in at the time. I thought it was the right move to bring Jacob Murphy in, and I still think he's playing decent. He was very unlucky, obviously, after, with that one that hit the post after a couple of minutes against Arsenal. He's weighed in with some important goals and assists, goals against Spurs and Everton and his contribution. But I think just freshen it up a little bit. I think bring Almiron back in for Leeds on Saturday would be a good move. Yeah.
Arda Güler has a release clause of 4.4 million if he doesn't play 1,500 minutes this season. Interesting. If Howe was to sell the obvious players we expect to leave in the summer, how much money do you think we could generate to add to the transfer kitty? I mean, that's a tough question to ask, Sutty, and it's a tough one to answer because, some of those players who you think he's going to sell, it appears that he may not sell them. I think most of us felt Dummett would probably at least be released and off the wage bill. Matt Ritchie would be another one, but listening to Eddie's press conference at the weekend, it's tended to suggest that he was looking at keeping those two players. So try and second guess what Eddie Howe's going to do with good luck. We're trying to second guess what he's going to do, Ross.
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit last week, Stephen, in that a player's worth to the club is not just what we see or don't see on the actual pitch. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You need good professionals, good people around the dressing room, around the changing, around the change rooms, around the training ground that can foster a team spirit and everything else like that. And while Matt Ritchie and Paul Dummett aren't getting any real game time, they're not featuring any as much as they probably want, and you might be unlikely to see them between now and the end of the season as well. they're obviously very valued behind the scenes. I think you also have to look at if Newcastle do get into the Champions League, what the restrictions are on the squad, and I must admit I've not read up on this one as widely as what I should have done perhaps, but and people in the chat will probably tell me, contradict me or put us right, but I think you need 4 players in your Champions League squad who have spent
Homegrown.
3 years, 3 years within the club's academy between kind of 15 and 21 or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's so Paul Dummett clearly fits that brief along with Elliot Anderson and Sean Longstaff. So so there's all sorts of different things that you have to weigh up when you're giving people contracts. There will be a bit of a clear out, I think, in the summer. I think there will be 3 or 4 who'll go either out of contract or sold. I don't think there'll be necessarily big money raised by those kind of fringe players. The one player I think that everybody thinks that Newcastle could, if they wanted to, get a decent fee for is ASM. If they so wish to, he's the one kind of sellable player in terms of bringing in a £30 million transfer fee. So he might be one that they do decide is best to cash in on and add that money into the transfer budget, because as we've said before, plenty of times before, FFP Newcastle do have to try to be as sustainable as possible. They do have to generate money through transfer fees, like Man City do, Chelsea do. They brought a lot of players through their academies and they do sell them on for big money, which is then reinvested back in the squad. So it'll be an interesting summer, but I think there will be plenty of movement.
Yeah, I'd love to see Richie retire into our coaching staff, says Dan. I think a lot of people would like to see that. Gulan, not even a regular starter in Turkey. How many Turks have ever made an impression in the Premier League? Stephen says Derek Platten, only at Christmas. Roger says Emre. And Ian says Turkish Delight, which has caused a bit of merriment in the chat. Hakan Sakua, says Derek. And as Roger says Darren, Emery comes to mind. Under 21 at the start of the season don't have to be included in the 25, says Derek as well. And Albert Mooney says Maxi looked good when he came on, which has been covered today in the Chronicle. Eddie Howe saying that he gave him 15 minutes. He was very impressed with him, but he's treating him with kid gloves with this hamstring issues that he's had throughout the season. Albert says he looked good when he came on. Hope he can have an impact in these crucial games to come. Derek questioning the fact that Emery had a major impression. We'll come to predictions in the last 5 minutes. Tom, 4 players homegrown in our youth system, 15 to 21 is correct. Ross and BT says, do you think the fair market value regulations which were put in place in 2021 was to stop Newcastle from agreeing disproportionate deals with Saudi Arabia to boost their revenue? There's always going to be a bit of paranoia, isn't there, with anything to do with finances when it comes to that. We did see the flyby at the weekend as well, by a certain group of people, free Saudi prisoners. It's always something that's going to surround us. I know you've got very strong views, Ross, which you've voiced on here on many occasions about this. So, it's not going to go away that. But I think maybe it's mild paranoia to think that fair market value regulations were put in place with Newcastle in mind. I think it's probably a general fair market value regulation put in for all teams, because it's not just Newcastle who've got questionable owners.
No, absolutely. I think the Newcastle situation might have been in the back of people's minds, but it was probably triggered more by Man City than Newcastle, and people just wanting to tighten up on those regulations, which is still causing Man City issues. They've got these charges still to answer. I can't remember how many charges it was now, but it's a ridiculous number that they've got on their financial control. So I wouldn't like to get down that kind of paranoia route. But if Newcastle hadn't been taken over by the owners that they have now, then you would, I think a lot of people wouldn't have been necessarily aware of those regulations, or if they were aware of them, would have thought that they were associated with another club. So yeah, I don't think it was necessarily just Newcastle that they were brought in to tackle.
Yeah, 105 to 122 spring to mind, Ross.
It was a ridiculous number of charges that they've got. Man City ahead of them. Best of luck getting off all of those. But yeah, that's going to be real interesting, potentially game changing one for Man City.
Yeah, Sparky D, we will do this in the summer, but you've got Joe Linton in the lead there so far. So yeah, we'll be looking back, doing a season review when the time comes, and we look back on what has been a wonderful season for Newcastle United. Happy birthday, of course, to Dan Burn today as well. I've just seen that, and another legendary player who wore the black and white, Frank Pingle. Heaved that wonderful goal against Liverpool, which he clearly didn't mean. I was in the Gallagher corner for that, Ross. Were you there?
No, I was listening to the game on the radio at my grandma's for that game.
That was a wonderful game. I had a red sweater on, and I remember it started chucking it down, and yeah, it was a wonderful game that to be at. Like that was a rare point, I think, against Liverpool, and Frank Pingle helped us get it. So great stuff.
Rare goal from Frank Pingle, who was many people's choice as the worst player that they've seen in a black and white shirt. Hadn't
got a clue where the ball was going, and just that spiky haircut of his put it in the right direction. Fantastic. Okay, Newcastle United make the short trip to Elland Road for a 12:30 kickoff on Saturday against Leeds United, managed by the greatest coach in his own mind, Sam Allardyce. It's live on BT Sports. All 2,900 away section tickets have been sold. Early team news, well, we know Sean Longstaff is an injury doubt and Jamal Lascelles remains sidelined. Kieran Trippier will complete his first 50 games for Newcastle United in all competitions. Wow, that's flown over, hasn't it? Time passes when you're having a good time. 2 away games remaining, of course. The game against Leeds and Chelsea. Newcastle have won 8 times on the road this season. It's their best ever return in a season, which was in 93, 94, and 2001, 2002. So we've won 8 times. We've still got time to beat that record. We have scored 29 goals away from home as well this season. We've only exceeded that twice before in competition, 93, 94, and 2001, 2002. 31 in the first and 34 in the second. And Leeds United, we have no news on potential injuries there, but Sam Allardyce took charge against Manchester City and they were duly beaten 2-1 in a game which really felt a bit like a training session. It has to be said. Man City didn't really get out of first gear. Leeds have conceded 31 goals at home this season, so that bodes well for us. It's a divisional high, that, along with Southampton. And yeah, this is a game Newcastle you have to win. Referee is Simon Hooper. The last game he took charge of was the 0-0 draw with Leeds on Tyneside in December. And on VAR, it's Neil Swarbrick. The bad news for those travelling down to the game is that the RMT union announced a strike for this particular day. There is a limited train availability, but you will need to check the trains via the website. So obviously TransPennine, Northern Rail and LNER, go to their respective websites and you will find out any information there. Of course, if you're going down in the car or going down on the bus, then you won't have any problems at all. But this is a huge game for us, Ross. And, you know, we went down there. It was a game that turned our season last season. What's your views on this one at the weekend?
Yeah, huge game, Steve. Really, really huge game. There'll be a fair chunk of nerves around it from both sides. You know, Newcastle, in the pessimistic Newcastle fans, as we've spoken about earlier, the Allardyce factor, the coming off the back of a defeat against Arsenal, albeit a decent performance. It's going to have the nerves shredded. I think it's a tense game. But you got to remember, Leeds are second bottom for a reason. Leeds are going to be under pressure themselves. It could be a really ferocious atmosphere, but Newcastle hopefully used to that. From obviously playing at St James's, and the atmosphere on Sunday again was electric. So I want to see Newcastle keep that clean sheet like I spoke about earlier, and I'm very, very hopeful that they will. They'll keep it tight. I think there'll be one or two changes to the starting lineup. Maybe one or two enforced, and another one. That's just a team call from Eddie Howe. I think, like you say, maybe Almiron coming in, or maybe he's changing that. Certainly, I don't think that front three will be the same front three. I don't think personally that the Isaac on the left and Callum Wilson through the middle combination worked as well as what it could have done. So I think he might go back to choosing one of Wilson or Isaac and the other one on the bench. But we'll say it's a huge game. I'm going to be confident. I am confident. I was confident that Newcastle would beat Arsenal as well. To be fair, and that didn't quite work out. But I'm going to go for a 2-0 Newcastle victory in this one, and hopefully that clean sheet, which I think is really, really important. If they can get back that defensive resolve, that'll see them over the line for the last 4 games.
Okay, just want to give us a bit of a plug as to where people can find your work, Ross.
Yeah, just you're pottering around on Twitter, doing bits and pieces for the obviously for the Chronicle around our, trying to engage our readers in a bit better. We've got the newsletter, the Newcastle United newsletter on the Chronicle is doing really, really well. Got 20-odd thousand, 30-odd thousand subscribers to that, and we're going to be doing a few little things on the Chronicle over the next few weeks around player of the season, around your transfer targets, and getting some fan and reader feedback and let us know what you think, where you think Newcastle should strengthen, who you think's had a good season and stuff like that. So I'll keep you signposted on all those as we go through.
And we had a bit of a catch up as well. So you're doing a piece on the channel and on my relationship with Newcastle United as well. So people have got that to look forward to at some point.
Yeah, I'm looking for. I'm busy transcribing that and writing it up. It's
like War and Peace.
Well, we had a good catch up, didn't we? And hopefully it'll make for a nice piece and give the channel a bit more kind of not necessarily recognition, because you don't necessarily do it for recognition, but just an understanding of why it's set up and what it brings to people and everything else like that. So again, I'll keep you updated on when I manage to get that one up and published. And
happy with the way the season went with Wickham? Yeah,
really, really well. I will play the season presentation on Saturday night, which was a good night. Doesn't stop, Steve. We're chatting with players all. Been chatting with about a couple today, meeting a couple potentially over the next few days as well, and it doesn't stop. So it's been a good season. The club's in a healthy position. We just now need to try and kick on and go for top 5 next season. Will be the year.
Yeah, good luck. Happy birthday to Mark Edward Brown. He shares his birthday with Frank Pingle and Dan Byrne, and he remembers that Liverpool game. I hope you have a really good day, Mark, and a really good night. And I am actually coming back tonight. I've got a bit of spare time this week, which is quite rare for me. So you will have noticed tomorrow night, 6 o'clock till 7. Geordie's here, Geordie's there. 7 o'clock till 8. Liam Kennedy and myself will be on. Those of you who like the true crime stuff, I did this in lockdown. I did a documentary called My Time with the Craze, and I never finished it off. So I'm going to be live tonight at 7 o'clock talking about Ronnie Cray and my visits to see him back in the day. So anyone who's interested in that, tune in. It'll be for 1 hour, and you'll be able to come on and listen to my memories of a bizarre encounter. Bizarre encounters over the period of 10 years with the Cray twins. But for now, that is all from us. I will see you next week, Ross, and hope that your prediction for next week is forthcoming and Newcastle have 3 points and we're a step closer to the Champions League.
Fingers crossed. Cheers, Steve.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye.